Hello, my friends. My name is Fred Fowler, and I know a lot about Scrum. I've been using Scrum since 2006, which is almost 20 years now, and I have lots and lots of experience, both good and bad, trying to implement the Scrum Framework in situations where either people understand it and it works well, or people don't have a clue and it blows up and fails spectacularly. I'm a bit of a teacher. I hold a level 3 Scrum certification from scrum.org. I'm with PSM 3. I'm also a doctor of Scrum, and I've taught about 300 people how to be Scrum Masters. I've actually taught people all over the world, in the US primarily, but I've also taught some in Europe and then in Asia. Went to China, and then Malaysia, and then India, all trying to teach people the Scrum Framework. Now, there are plenty of videos online that can describe what the Scrum Guide says. The Scrum Guide, of course, is the founding document of the Scrum Framework, written by two gentlemen, one named Ken Swaver, the other named Jeff Sutherland. And back in 1995, which is just about 30 years ago, they presented Scrum at a conference, and it was revolutionary at the time. The whole idea was that the way software is being developed wasn't working very well, and they chose to introduce a new framework that solved some of the basic problems with software development and has turned out to be quite successful when implemented properly. Now, unfortunately, the implemented properly part is the problematic part, because the Scrum Guide, in some ways, it's very clear, but it's also quite misleading. You can read the Scrum Guide in under 10 minutes. It's like about 19 or 20 pages at this point. And so you can read it and understand it, and at least think you understand it, so you can understand what to do. The Scrum Guide says there need to be 3 roles, the product owner, the Scrum Master, and the developers. There are 5 events: the sprint itself, and the sprint planning meeting, the daily Scrum, the sprint review, and then the retrospective. And there are 3 artifacts: the product backlog, the Scrum backlog, and the increment itself. And there are various rules that you memorize about how long things should be. They're called time boxes. So each of the events has a certain time box. And the Scrum Guide says that it's all based on the idea of something called empirical process control. And empirical process control basically means making decisions based on measurements as opposed to guesses or opinions. Now, the Scrum Guide doesn't go any much further than that. The problem, though, is people can read the Scrum Guide, follow the directions, but not succeed with it because they don't understand. They understand what to do, but they don't understand why. Why do you do it? Why is there a daily Scrum? Why do you have a sprint review that's time boxed at 4 hours for a 30-day sprint? The why part is missing. And if you don't understand why you're doing these things, then you really have no idea whether you are achieving the goal that you're looking towards or just following the form rather than the substance. Now, what I try to do is I try to teach the why part of Scrum. Why are there the 3 roles? Why do you have the 3 artifacts? What purposes do they serve? And why are they important? Because if you understand that, then you can see through the superficial form of Scrum as illustrated in the Scrum Guide and get to the heart of the matter of what makes Scrum teams successful and how to help them become successful. Now, the Scrum.org people are pretty good. They've come up with 3 levels of certification: Professional Scrum Master or Professional Product Owner level 1, level 2, and level 3. And there are plenty of videos online about how to take and pass the level 1 tests. Because what level 1 really tests is whether you have read the Scrum Guide and you understand what it says. So level 1 is a bunch of questions about, well, what does the Scrum Guide say? What's the time box for this? What are the events that does this? So in order to get a level 1 certification, you have to have read the Scrum Guide. Now level 2 is a little bit different. You see, level 2 is all about checking to see whether you can apply Scrum in real-world situations. Level 2 is a bunch of scenarios. They describe a situation, then ask a bunch of questions about what would you do in this situation. So level 2 is not just have you read the Scrum Guide. Level 2 is, do you know how to use the tools in the proper circumstances? Now level 3 is in some ways the most challenging of all, because the test for level 3 is a bunch of essay questions. In other words, you're given a question and then you have to write out an answer in long form, in prose. And what that's doing, the level 3 examination is testing to see whether you understand Scrum well enough to be able to explain it to others. And that's the key to the highest level of certification. Can you explain Scrum in a way that other people can learn and understand? So anyway, I've had a level 3 certification for, about 12, 14 years now. And I have done a lot of teaching of Scrum. And the best way to learn and perfect your understanding of Scrum is to try to teach it to somebody else. Because people always ask questions that challenge your knowledge. The biggest question is, well, why? Why do you do this? Why do you do that? And it's important to understand why you do those things. So anyway, this podcast series, this vlog series, is about a whole bunch of real-world situations that I've been involved with one way or another, which illustrate challenges that can be addressed through the Scrum Framework, and how the Scrum Framework can be used to deal with the difficulties that are presented here. So this series is all about trying to prepare people for that level 2 Scrum certification experience. It's not just this is what the Scrum Guide says, it's this is how Scrum works in the real world, which is why this is called Scrum in the Real World. So anyway, sit back and enjoy. We're going to be going through a number of different cases. Each video that I do will be a different case, a different situation that involves, challenges and how do you deal with them. And we'll work through them together, and by the end of the time, I think you'll have a much greater understanding of how Scrum works, how to use it, how not to use it, when it's appropriate to use, and how to put these tools into practice in order to be successful in your product development career. So, thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.